This is Water Elemental.
And this is Axis, and this is our second part of our podcast. We're actually changing things up this week. This is going to be the podcast where we talk about all the weekly champions, rather than having to jump in with the rest. So, if you're looking for the other one, there's a little thing that I'm pointing at, but you can't see. That'll take back to the other one. Woo! Yeah, how about that? So, our champions for this week, November 1st.
Week 17 of Season 1.
Season 1. It's Mamu, Dr.Mundo, Fiddlesticks, Gangplank, Lady Gragas, Kale, Lux, Morgana, Sivir, and Tristana. No Galio this week. Mamu is a tank. He's a very good tank in that he has 2 hard CCs. He has no taunt, but he has superb damage, and he has the ability to jungle easily and without smite, which makes him a very good asset to your team. So that opens up a free lane, and it lets your DPS get higher level faster. But because of Mamu's CC durations don't improve, he's a good champion to have in the jungle, just because his AoE damage, his Despair, awesome. I love that ability. They changed it a while back where it's some passive, it's X amount of damage plus %, so that's why it's good for jungling. Then of course Tantrum resists incoming melee damage, and the more he gets hit, the more often he can spam it. Low mana cost, very solid ability, especially when you just need to get a little bit of damage out there. And then of course Curse of the Sad Mummy, AoE Snare that prevents attacking and deals damage over time. This is his bread and butter ability, this is why people pick him. So there's that. Mamu, solid tank, probably one of the better tanks out there. Next up we have Dr.Mundo. He is a champion with a lot going for him. A lot of people put him in the tank category, but he's really just sort of an aggressive tanky DPS. He doesn't quite have all the tools he needs to survive very much outside of his regeneration ability and his CC reduction. Doesn't have anything to really reduce incoming damage or to, stop the enemy other than his cleaver, which is just as slow. So it's not effective at keeping the enemy in a team fight. It's really just good for chasing. That said, it's very good for chasing. I mean, you can just keep hammering things out there because it has a low cooldown, literally no resource cost if you're a good shot with it. And of course, Burning Agony, it reduces the duration of CCs on him. So if you're trying to chase someone like, let's say, Ashe, and she keeps trying to kite you, she can't keep you down. Especially if you've got Mercury Treads. No one can stop you. Mundo goes where he pleases. Just charges right through. And of course, got Sadism. Gives him sacrifice a small amount of health. Deals a little bit extra damage. Gives him some attack speed. It's very good news. And finally, his ultimate sacrifices a big chunk of his health. And then regenerates a lot of his health. It scales with the ultimate level over time. Mundo is just one of those champions. If you're expecting to play a tank, a very durable tank, probably not the best choice. He can't take sustained fire, but he can take limited amounts where you just kind of pop in, take a couple of hits, take a couple of CC hits, and get out of there. Just be careful because he can get burned down really quick if you're not careful. Fiddlesticks. Fiddlesticks is a champion who doesn't have all the damage you would hope for. He was recently buffed, which is good, which is actually pretty good. So, let me give you the slim on Fiddlesticks here. He's one of the few junglers who is also a caster. I mean, he can kill Dragon at level 2, for God's sake. He's a great asset if you're a perceptive jungler. He has one of the best non-ultimate CCs in the game. He has some of the best staying power in a lane. He has his CC, his silence is fantastic. His fear is fantastic. No damage with the fear, but it's 3-second duration. You can't argue with that. Even with Mercury Trez, it's still a very long CC. His silence bounces around. You can keep people locked down, especially if they decide to cluster together. Very good champion to pair with Mamu this week, if you're looking around. His ultimate, Crow Storm, is perhaps one of the most hilarious abilities. It's like, you just kind of go around, you just like sitting in the bush, and just caw, 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 caw. Pretty much. And then Drain Life, which is the ability that lets him jungle. They changed it. Cooldown. It gets less cooldown per level. And they up the damage and shorten the duration by 1 second, which is good because with enough CDR, you can essentially keep it up forever. I mean, if you have the mana, you could just keep going. That said, don't be all confident about it because after a little bit into mid-game, melee champions will burn you through that drain life. They won't care. You'll be draining life, you'll get a little life back, and they'll just burn through it with their auto attacks. It's kind of sad, but don't be cocky about it. Use your fear, use your drain life. When they start to get out of range, pop your Dark Wind, and don't be cocky about it. So, that's really Fiddlesticks for you. Very good jungler. His passive is very, very satisfying.
Next we have Gangplank. Gangplank is essentially a ranged hero near endgame, but kind of melee beginning game, just kind of the way he builds. Main damaging ability is his Parlay, which lets you shoot a pistol, dealing damage. If he kills it, you gain extra gold. Very nice for farming. He's great in 3v3 if you're going to take top or soloing or anything like that. He has Grogsoak Blade. This is kind of what makes him the melee part. It's because whenever he deals damage to a thing, it gives him a small little damage over time ability. That's where kind of the back and forth goes. He is a crit hero, though. You mainly want to build him crit because you're going to be using Parlay so much that you just want to get that great hit off and just harass. Next you have Scurvy. Scurvy is the ability which lets him heal and removes debuffs off of him, which is really nice. It's like a mini cleanse.
Yeah, it even breaks suppression effects, so he's a good counter to Malzar or Warwick.
Yep. He's got that nice survivability with him. He also has something that a lot of characters can't do in this game, which is kill steal from enemy players with raised morale.
He's the denier! He's the one denier in the game!
There needs to be a skin where it's like, denied!
Yeah.
But yeah, it lets you kill an allied minion and you gain a buff from it for about 10 seconds. This is really good, especially if you're soloing against someone else and it's just going to deny him extra experience. His ultimate is really annoying if you already know what it is. It's his cannon barrage. He picks any spot on the map, he barrages it with cannon fires, giving a slow and a good amount of damage. It's great for ganks or runners. So if you're looking for a character that's versatile with melee and as well as long range, that you want a crit character that can deal massive amounts of damage, Gangplank's your man. Pirate.
Gragas, the other tank for this week. He is a very good AP champion as well as a tank, a lot like Cho'Gath. He will pump out a lot of magic damage with his two barrel abilities, the barrel roll and the barrel burst. He actually has a lot of staying power because he gets mana back from one of his abilities and he gets health back from one of his passive. So he can kind of double dip in that regard. You can get health back, you can get mana back, you can stay in a lane pretty much forever if you really wanted to, just from spamming at his abilities. You might want to pick up maybe a mana potion, just in case, but still, very good champion. He's very durable just because of his body slam and because of the way he regains health every time he uses an ability. So you can get back a little bit of health, and then you can body slam kind of out of there. Another thing he has going for him is his barrel burst. Pushes everybody out of the way. I mean, it's a lot like Janna, the goddess of air.
Assists.
Yeah, except it doesn't have the heal, but it's ranged. So you can chuck it into the enemy bombardment, knock them all back towards you, or knock those support heroes away from their tanks or their DPS.
Or push them into towers.
Or push them into towers. It's quite possible. So that's really all there is to him. He's good for AP, and he's good for tank, and he has a lot of staying power, obviously, and he's just solid. So if you're looking for a champion with a lot of staying power that you can build in a couple of diverse ways, definitely a champion to check out.
Yep. Next we got Kale. She is a hybrid between melee DPS and magic. She can also be built as a semi-tank. She is really good with range, especially since she has a great splash, which at late game can be just constantly used over and over again. She has a slow as well as a heal that gives improved movement speed. Her ultimate lets you tower dive because it makes you become invincible for a short amount of time. Make sure you know how long it lasts, just so you can time it in case you are going to tower dive. Next we have...
one more thing about Kale. There are about 50 million items designed for Kale, specifically, pretty much. I mean...
Trinity Force,
the Jinsu's Rage Blade, Malady. Oh, jeez. There are so many. It's silly, almost.
There needs to be a sticker.
Hextech Gunblade. There's just... Because of the... Kale's not necessarily a very overpowered champion, but because there's so many items that are perfect for her...
It's not hard to build.
Yeah, she's so easy to play. So there you go.
Alright, next is Lux. Lux is one of the newer champions. She has her snare ability. Once it's a skill shot, it hits one target. It also can hit a target behind her, snaring that person for half the time and dealing half damage. She also has a bubble, which prevents a small amount of damage, as well as give you a mana resistance. It's great for team fights and great for supporting. She also has her slow ability, which is a spot on the ground, kind of like Morgana, where it slows the enemies down and deals damage over time. You can activate it to deal the damage, and all her abilities also light up, so you can hit them with the physical damage and deal an extra amount of damage. Her ultimate is the Care Bear Stare, the Finale Funklin, and it's not like Ezreal's or Ashe's ability where it hits across the map, but it has a long amount of range, and it's a skill shot as well where you time it up, has about like a 2-second wind-up, and it just does an instant amount of damage afterwards. She's really good, but considering Morgana's out this week, and we've compared her a lot to Morgana, you'll see kind of the resemblance. Morgana kind of has the same ability. She has a skill shot stun, but it doesn't hit 2 targets, but at the same time it lasts longer. She also has an AoE damage, which instead of activating it, it sits there and pools for a certain amount of time dealing damage.
Also reduces magic resistance.
Morgana also has her magic resist shield, which is targets one character specifically, but it lasts longer again.
Yes, this is one of the main differences why you will pick Lux or Morgana. Morgana is a good counter to casters, because most of the time casters don't have very fantastic escape mechanisms. So her ultimate is able to, keep up with them, because they can slow them and then stun them, and the casters won't be able to get away very easily. Whereas Lux, she's a very good counter to melee champions because her shield will block their melee damage and their spell damage, which is usually very low. And then her ult has the range to hit them as they're running away.
Speaking of Morgana's ult hits certain targets at a small area around her. And after 6 seconds, if they're still in the area, you can tell because they're still slowed, it will hit them,
stun them,
and
deal damage. Once again, the initial damage will be dealt once more. This is an effective ability for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the slow, and second, because it works through Zanya's, and it works through Guardian Angel.
And Zillion's ability.
And Zillion's Revive. So, very good ability, especially good at deceiving enemies, and as long as they don't have a very good escape mechanism, it's a very, very good ability to shut them down. Next, we have Sivir. Sivir the Pusher! She got a little bit of a buff. One of her abilities scales off her attack damage now, Boomerang Blade, I believe. So it gives her a little bit more a chance to get that extra damage out, because Boomerang Blade hits really, really hard really early games. So this will be a nice burst to give her something to use her mana on, other than, just her spell shield. Her Ricochet got a little bit of a nerf, but she still deals a lot of damage, especially to creep wave. She's a very good pusher. So we're going to, for a champion to push this week. Tristana is a good choice this week, mostly because a lot of people are going to be playing LeBlanc. So, she has enough range, and she has her rocket jump, so she can keep up with her, and she has the range to harass her without getting in danger of getting blasted with her spell combo. She has an attack speed ability, which is kind of lame, but, it's good for what it is. Of course, she has exploding damage, which will help you clear creep waves really quick. She has a dot that reduces healing, and then, of course, she has the knockback. Please use the knockback competently. There have been billions. That's an exaggeration. I'm a master of hyperbole, but I will say it right now. Billions of kills lost because Tristana's like, I'll knock them back. It'll be great.
So, it'll reverse them.
So just be careful when you're using those guys. And that's really it about champions this week. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have any strategy guides, post them on the Facebook or post them down in the comments. And, of course, I'm still looking for footage for my kill cams. Not my kill cams, but my kills of the whatever. So if you have a sweet kill that you recorded, or maybe just even a sweet play, like let's say you
just juked 5 guys using
Lux. 5 guys or something. Yeah. Send it in. I want to see it. Take care, guys. This has been Axis.
And Water Elemental.